So having outlined those 7 areas that I've seen personally hundreds of leadership teams having challenges with, they are in fact the kryptonite to help leadership teams as they work more effectively together. If you can turn those 7 areas into the solution, they have become what I've termed the 7 elements of how leadership teams can work more effectively together. And I've seen this road tested and proven hundreds of times with my experience across all sectors. But let me just go into a little bit more depth into one of those 7 areas. And it's something that very few of us, CEOs, leadership practitioners, a lot of people pay lip service to this. But in reality, this is the most crucial thing that helps bind leadership teams together and helps them be successful. And it's the concept of behaviors. So think about this just for a moment. All of the research is telling us that inconsistent behaviors amongst leaders in leadership teams is what causes their success or failure. In most cases, they're failures because they haven't defined these behaviors consistently. We did some research recently at Paul Mac Leadership in terms of understanding why leadership teams don't work effectively together. Over 40% of respondents in our poll and our subsequent research outlined that leadership teams are not successful because they don't have a consistent approach to behaviors. They haven't defined their behaviors. So let me take this moment to go into a little bit more detail in terms of what I do with leadership teams around the behaviors. Firstly, as part of an individual exercise, I get leadership teams, and we're talking senior directors, first-line leaders, VPs, even C-suite. I get them to reflect on the best and the worst experiences they've ever had as part of a team. It doesn't have to be the team they're working with now, but in their career, in their illustrious careers. I'm sure they've had many roles in executive positions. So there's lots of fodder to choose from in terms of good experiences and bad experiences. Then what I get them to do is come together as a group. So the leadership team actually comes together as a group and starts to talk about the best experiences and the worst experiences. What we then do is to say, let's outline some key behaviors that made that experience successful. And all of a sudden, we've got about 15, 20 behaviors that the leaders in the leadership team have outlined. Then what we get them to do is to say, as a leadership team, define the 3 to 5 behaviors that you want to be held accountable to as a leader and as a leadership team. And it doesn't stop there, because what we then do is to say, go away separately and reflect and think through, if I'm a leader in this leadership team and these are the behaviors that I'm being held accountable to, how do I demonstrate those behaviors? What do I need to do? How do I show up? And am I being true to those behaviors? We then bring them back as a team and we get them to land on those 3 to 5 behaviors as a team. And then one of the final exercises we do is to say, if these are the 3 to 5 behaviors that now form your behavior framework for a leadership team, how do you know if it's going to be successful? So we get them to do a start, stop, change, continue exercise. And that really is as it suggests. If this behavior is something we want to demonstrate, what do we need to start, stop, change, and continue doing in order for that behavior to manifest? And then the last thing we do to wrap this all around is to say, what's going to get in the way? What are the barriers? So now we've got this, we've defined the behaviors, we've got them working as a team, we've got a behaviors framework, we've now got them to start thinking about what they need to do in order to embed those behaviors. But ultimately, you know and I know Leadership teams face crisis. COVID-19 is one example. Changing work patterns, different ways of motivating staff, whatever it is. You need a process to make sure that you can remove any barriers along the way. So we do an exercise to identify what those barriers are, as well as what the mitigations for those barriers are when they surface, because they will surface.